About a month ago, Nancy Vega was scouring the internet looking for ways to make extra cash. She came across an ad on Craigslist that looked like easy money, just in time for Christmas.
I'd heard of car wraps before and other people doing them, so I thought, oh, here's finally the opportunity for me.
The ad from a company called J. Rio Properties offered $300 weekly to transform her car into a rolling advertisement. After messaging back and forth, Nancy agreed to the deal, and a few days later, she got a check in the mail. The check was for more than they discussed, but the salesman tried to explain.
My accountant messed up and sent you the car wrapper guy's check, but you need to deposit it in your account and then give him the money or something like that. And I was like, okay, sure.
Now, at this point, Nancy contacted me, concerned this might be a scam. I told her it had plenty of red flags, and she didn't need to deposit that check without at least getting some assurances first from her bank. Her bank manager confirmed that this check did come from an empty account, and depositing it would have caused Nancy some major problems.
He said, well, you would have gone negative and owed us several $1,000s as much as the check, plus you could have faced criminal charges. And that really brought it home to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I brought this check in and didn't deposit it, which means I'm so glad I spoke with you in the first place.
We noticed some major problems with the company website as well. How about this? A 2-bedroom, 1,800 square meter townhouse on Wentworth Street in downtown Charleston for only $800 rent. This could fall under the too good to be true red flag category. I did reach out to the company. Neither phone line worked, and I did not get a response back by email either. I was glad to help Nancy, and I hope that this story will help others out there. And if you have a scam story like this that could help others by sharing, be sure to email me at scams@live5news.com.
I met my husband when I was 13. I married him when I was 15. We started our family when I was 16.
For the next 36 years, Trisha and Rusty Williamson raised a family and built a life in the Low Country.
I love him today as much as I did the day I married him.
But in 2010, cancer took Rusty and left Trisha heartbroken and alone.
I was so lonely and missing my husband so much, thinking nobody would ever want me again.
After almost 6 years, a lonely widow got a friend request from a handsome older man in uniform, and she accepted.
A good-looking military guy, looked outstanding. I didn't think anything wrong with it.
The two started messaging, and before long,
I started having feelings, because I was so lonely. He had asked me to marry him, to move to Georgia.
Even her children noticed the change.
She's doing better all of a sudden. She's happy when I talk to her. She's not crying about Dad.
What her daughter Kim didn't know was that Trisha was already heading down a path to devastating heartbreak.
He was coming home in about 3 months and wanted to know if he could send a box to my house.
But he told her shipping personal items from Syria came with a price. He needed a few $1,000s to make sure he and his belongings all got back to the U.S. safely.
I sent him to $3,000. And then it got to where it was $3,000 this, $3,000 for the airplane flight, insurance on the box and everything.
She had no idea the man on Facebook was not who he claimed to be. This is Raymond F. Chandler, a retired sergeant major in the U.S. Army, and Trisha was talking to one of many accounts spoofing his identity. We found several social media profiles with the same man's picture, going by Raymond Chandler, Chandler Raymond, and others. When Trisha questioned his motives, her online romance took a dark turn.
He threatened me that I had been sending him this money and I was going to be arrested for money laundering.
She had to wire money to a Wells Fargo account in Texas, then send a picture of the receipt to prove she was paying the fines to avoid jail time.
He was saying, well, they know where you live. Well, then my heart just started pounding. I got scared.
Trisha continued to send money for almost 6 months. By the end of it, she was ashamed and scared. She almost lost everything, including the family business. But then she finally reached out for help.
She just didn't know what to do. She was out of all this money.
Approximately $65,000. That's how stupid I was.
Trisha filed a report with the Hanahan police, but because her case stretches across state lines, investigators reached out to the FBI.
The FBI was telling me they've got a lot of cases like that, a lot more than just $65,000, that it's like a ring that's going on.
And now I have no money. I can't help myself. I can't help my children.
It's not the easiest thing in the world to accept, but I guess the easy part now is just to look at her and say it's going to be okay. We'll get through it.
Trisha's family has spent the last 2 years helping her get her life back, and now she hopes her story will save someone else from the same kind of heartbreak.
I am embarrassed to say I fell for the biggest scam in the world. What educated woman would do this? A very lonely one.
I get a phone call and he introduces himself from being from Dorchester County.
He just said, you know, I just want to let you know that there's 2 citations in your name.
Rachael Klat of Johns Island and Ronnie Haskell of Somerville were both called by a scammer impersonating law enforcement. Both were told they'd miss jury duty.
We have a warrant out for your arrest.
I was under basically a phone arrest. I was not able to make any phone calls. There should be no text out.
He basically said that I couldn't hang up the phone.
The scammer told Klat she'd signed certified mail to appear at federal grand jury.
He said that in order to get your citations dropped, what you need to come in and do is a handwriting analysis.
But first, she owed some pretty hefty fines.
He said it totaled $24.50.
The scammer told Klat to stop by a grocery store on her way in and pay the fine using Reload It, a prepaid credit card.
I'm trying to write stuff down and packing like snacks for my kids. I've got their travel potty. Like at this point, I'm almost barely listening, but convinced that I have to do everything he says.
I felt very vulnerable at the moment because I had my children with me.
Both working mothers were suddenly struck with fear, pay a fine or be separated from their children.
They knew that that was a weakness for me as a parent and a risk that I was not going to take.
Haskell was called for jury duty, but without child care for her youngest daughter, she filled out paperwork to be excused.
When they said, well, you didn't show up, I said, well, and I told them my story of what happened and why I felt like I was excused. His lieutenant got on the phone and gave me very strict orders, and I even sat and wrote down the orders so that I could understand.
She was told to go to the bank and take out cash, then to the store to purchase 2 Green Dot Visa cards for $500 each.
They keep telling you this is a one-chance deal. Get off the phone with us and you will be arrested.
After paying $1,000, the scammer told Haskell she had another outstanding charge for another $1,000.
It just hit me. I was like, I knew in that moment. There was no way he was getting more of my money, and I was going to go to the police department.
While Haskell's fear for her children made her more vulnerable, Klat's children may have saved her.
I said, I need to call my mom to help with my kids. Can I place you on hold? He said, you could put me on hold, but do not hang up.
Her mom called the sheriff's office and connected a deputy who let Rachael know the truth.
She said, take your kids out of the car seats, take your shoes off, go back outside, enjoy your day because your mama has saved you from being scammed.
It's unfair. You know, it was unfair to me to put the fear there. It was unfair to take the money. It's happening nationwide, and I'm one of many, many victims, but it needs to end.
The sign says for sale, but the ad says for rent. Jude and PJ Nelms say a scammer is using their house to rip people off.
It makes us feel like we're being attacked, personally.
The couple put their North Charleston home on the market a few weeks ago, but noticed a problem with people showing up to see it.
We had an open house and people showed up. Some people were here to buy, other people showed up to look at a rental, and it put a bad feeling in the room. The potential buyers feel like they're involved in a scam.
They discovered their house, with all the pictures and information from the MLS listing online, is being offered for rent on Craigslist for only $800, utilities included.
For this neighborhood, that's a great deal. That's less than half of what other houses are going for.
And that should be a red flag for house hunters looking for a rental. The house showed up a second time later for only $750. PJ replied to one of the ads to see how the scammer would respond.
They responded the next morning, you know, well, I've got to transfer to Texas. I have the key with me. You can't walk through it.
The scammer also explained the for sale sign in the yard.
Don't worry, once, you know, you sign the paperwork and you send me the money, I will have the for sale sign removed from the yard. It's not for sale.
The couple says the fake listing should have been removed, but it's still there more than a week later.